Hey guys, welcome back to another vlog. This week's a little bit different, as you may have guessed. It's a Q&A type of vlog. There is literally too much going on in the house for me to do a weekly vlog, so I thought let's change things up this week and do a little sit down Q&A because there's lots been going on in work life and in personal life and all that sort of stuff, and I've not done a sit down Q&A I think since I started vlogging, which was actually over a year ago. So if you don't know, I am planning my own wedding in 2024 and I also work in the wedding industry, so I thought it might be good for other brides and people thinking of getting married to have a little bit of an insight from someone who's planning and someone who's in the industry. Hopefully I can have some tips and things to save you some pennies and give you a little insight into what kind of goes on when planning a wedding. So I did a little Q&A box on my Instagram a couple weeks ago, and I've gathered kind of just a few of like the general questions and like collated them. Hopefully I answer most of the things that were asked. So I've tried to kind of do it in order of what would make the best sense, so bear with. So yeah, quite basic questions. Where and when are you getting married? So I'm getting married September 24, so next year, in Edinburgh, in my hometown, at a place called the Mansfield Square. Insert photo of the most beautiful venue I have ever seen. Obviously I'm going to say that because it's my venue and I am obsessed and in love. Everyone will have the same view when it's like their venue, but for me the Mansfield is just the best. So yeah, I've got a little while to go until it's actually my day, but I'm so very much excited and in the bridal buzz of planning everything, so that's where I'm at. How did you pick your venue? I am so overwhelmed with the amount of choices. So there was a lot of other brides that had popped questions in there saying like, it's very overwhelming, I don't know where to start, which is very, very normal. For me, I feel like I'm maybe in the minority of brides. Like, I do not feel overwhelmed. I knew exactly when I wanted to get married. There was like no question about it. Like when Darren proposed, he knew straight away that there would be no venue hunting, there would be no like no discussions really. That like the Mansfield has like been my dream for a very, very long time, and he knew that. So for me there was no feeling of where do I start, like where do I go and look, and all that sort of stuff. So as I say, for me it wasn't that overwhelming because I kind of knew already. My advice for other people who are feeling like a little bit more overwhelmed and not sure if they want an abroad wedding or a home wedding, or if they want a big church or a barn, or there's so many different styles of venues, so many different locations, and I think the best place to start is to sit down with your partner and discuss one, your budget, because that massively impacts where you get married, where you can afford to get married. Also think about your friends and family, if you want them to travel, if they would be willing to travel. For me, like my grandparents are a must-have at my wedding. Like there would be no way on this planet I would have an abroad wedding because I don't think that they would really want to travel for that. So I chose easiness for everybody as well. Like I just had to have, I just knew that I had to have a home wedding to make it really easy for everybody to get there. Like literally every single person can like travel from their home to our venue. There's no like having to stay over anywhere, because weddings can be very expensive. Like on the run up, if you've got hen do's, stag do's, you've got like wedding gifts, your outfits, it can all be very expensive. So for me, I didn't want to put an extra cost on anybody having to like get a hotel room for the night, or travel up north, or travel overseas, anything like that. One thing I would say, if you are kind of at the very beginning of your planning and you're looking at venues, I know a lot of people that are doing, this is just from experience of being in the industry and chatting to brides all the time, Like you get some venues like my venue, which the initial rental fee and everything like that is very high, but that includes everything. Like that includes our tables, our chairs, our cutlery, everything like that. Whereas you get some venues which seem really cheap, but they come with nothing. So you then have to bring in decor, you have to bring in people to supply tables, chairs, table covers, cutlery, glasses, everything. So then although it seems like a really low fee and you think, oh yes, this is going to be on a great budget, once you add all that on, it really hikes the price up. So my number one tip for when you're initially looking at your venues, ask those questions. What is included? What do I get? Do I have to bring in external suppliers? Because you want to be like very aware of what you're going to have to do. And if you want a simple life like me, I don't want to have to deal with different suppliers and bring them in and all that sort of stuff. I just like booked it and I don't really have to think too much about it. So I suppose that depends on your nature as well. Like if you're creative and you have a vision and you know how to decorate an empty barn, then go down that route. If you don't really have much of a creative vision and you don't really want much stress, maybe you've got kids or you have a very busy lifestyle, then opt for something like what I'm doing and everything is included, and it's just like a much smaller list of things that you have to focus on and deal with, essentially. So the next question was, where do I begin? I'm a 2024 bride. So I suppose I've kind of just answered a lot of that in the last question. Another thing as well is wedding planners. A lot of people get them, a lot of people don't get them. Again, that would be a great starting point if you really have no clue what you're wanting, if you need a bit of guidance, a bit of help. If your budget allows for it, I do believe wedding planners can be pricier. A lot of venues come with a wedding coordinator. Like I think mine comes with a wedding coordinator to help me, but it's not a full wedding planner. If you're a 2024 bride, now is the time to get kind of cracking. If you've not booked your venue, book your venue. Like I was looking at photographers and I booked mine 2 years in advance. Same with my makeup artist. She actually double booked by accident, so then I had to find somebody else a few months ago, and the amount of makeup artists that were already full for my day, I was very shocked at. Give yourself plenty of time to book suppliers if you have specific people in mind, because they do book up years in advance. Did you consider an abroad wedding at all? Short answer, no. Long answer, Darren probably would have loved to have a abroad wedding. It wasn't for me. I've already obviously said about trying to make it easy for everybody, and I already knew the venue. So for me, an abroad wedding, it's not my thing. It's not my style. It's not aesthetically how I envision my day, and I just really don't like the hassle of having to plan an event that is not in the same country as me. Suppliers don't speak the same language as me, and at the minute I do believe that abroad weddings have super hiked the prices up just with demand. So I think before a lot of people were doing abroad weddings as a kind of more budget friendly thing, but now you're the same if not more than a Edinburgh wedding. And then a lot of people, they do the abroad wedding and then they have the big thing at home as well. Again, that is just not for me. Like I want to do it very traditionally. I want to get married. I want to go straight on my honeymoon. I just, not that I want the day to be over at all, but I don't want to have to plan 2 separate events. There's lots of pros and cons for an abroad wedding. For me, it's definitely a no. I love to attend abroad weddings. Attending them is great fun. I don't think I would like the stress of having to plan something, as I say, that's not in my country, and not be able to go and see it as often. Obviously you could get flights to wherever you're planning on going and see the venue and whatnot, but like I've literally been to the Mansfield 3 times already and I plan on going more. It's just the OCD control freak in me. I am very happy and content that all my suppliers are here. Literally my videographer lives 2 streets away, which literally makes me so happy. Like, I can basically just text him in the morning and be like, we're ready for you, come on over. So things like that just give me complete peace of mind. I just want like minimum stress. Next question. How long would you recommend leaving between getting engaged and your wedding? So I gave myself 2 years. Basically, as soon as I got engaged, we came home and booked our venue, and basically instantly. And there was a lot of dates available. I was a bit apprehensive because it was kind of post-COVID, and there was a lot of weddings that had been postponed, and obviously new engagements planning. So I was like fearful that we wouldn't get a Saturday wedding in the time frame that we wanted, but we did, thankfully. But I think 2 years is a good time. Like, if you're not in a rush, if you're not trying to do it before a certain time, 2 years is a good amount of time, because I also think you want to enjoy your engagement. You don't want it to be like, quickly, let's just plan this thing and get it done and over with. You want to enjoy it. You want to have time. You want to be able to enjoy everything. Go to wedding shows, go try on loads of wedding dresses, and just enjoy the whole experience. Like, this is a once in a lifetime situation, and for me, I didn't want to rush it at all. I want to just bask in the engagement bubble and enjoy every moment of it. So for me, 2 years is a good amount of time. Next question, your best budget saving tips. This is probably the most asked question, like, about budget, about saving for it, how to not necessarily cut corners, but like things to save on, what's worth spending on, what's not worth spending on. Obviously, I have had friends that have got married. I speak to brides on the daily. I am in a lot of wedding forums and wedding pages, and I read a lot of things, and I speak to different suppliers, and basically the moral of the story is the small things do not matter. Like, I think a lot of people get caught up on the fine details of things. They overspend, they get a lot of unnecessary things, and then after they're like, that was a waste of money. Things like wedding favours. Say you've got 100 guests, minimum, say £2 per favour. If it's like a little miniature alcohol thing, or if it's like a little biscuit or whatever it is, say you're £2, that's £200 on something that, quite frankly, no one cares about. Like, I have never went to a wedding and went, oh, thank God I've got that miniature bottle of Jack Daniels. Like, no, I do not care, and I know that no one else will care or miss them if they're not on our table. And personally, it makes the table look ugly. So for me, I am not doing favours. That is somewhere where I can sacrifice on my budget, save myself £200, put it towards something I would much rather put it towards, something more valuable, put it towards your wedding band. Things that I would not scrimp on is, 1, your wedding band, 2, if photography and videography is something that you're getting, I wouldn't scrimp on that either. Like, between my videographer and photographer, we are looking at like between 5,000 and 6,000. But for me, it was a non-negotiable. Like, that captures your day, you get to have it for life. I just didn't want to scrimp on that, and I knew exactly what photographer that I wanted. So yeah, that was one of my non-negotiables. What I did cut back on is, I personally, depending on your location, obviously I'm a home bird, home wedding, I am not spending £2,000 on a bridal suite the night before my wedding. I am staying in the country, we've just bought this lovely big home. I will be spending the night before my wedding in my lovely house. I will be able to have my bridesmaids stay here, there's multiple bathrooms, there's room, all our stuff is here, tea, coffee, prosecco, wine, food, we don't have to get that in, and it just means that there is less stress, it is easier, it will be more streamlined, I know exactly where everything is, there's not a chance that I'm going to have forgotten anything. So for me, I sacrifice having a bridal suite. I just find it the most pointless thing, unless you're obviously staying far away. But for me, like, I do not see the point, so I'm saving on that side of things. One thing that I actually think is a waste of money, again depending on where you are and what is provided, it might be within your package. I'm not wanting to spend money on a wedding car. Like, we looked at quotes and they were like £800, £900. I'm just going down the street. I'm literally going 20 minutes down the road. I am not spending money on a wedding car. Again, that could go towards my band. It could go towards more drink for our guests. No one's going to see me. Everyone's going to be in the venue. So, like, I'm just very chilled out about that sort of stuff. Like, I don't need to show up in a fancy old Rolls Royce with my dad. We can just rock up in, like, maybe like one of those white city caps. Like, still kind of bridal. I think you can get them, I think they're like £100. So saving so much more money. My battery's gonna die, so I'm gonna be back. I think I was telling you about my saving tips, budget saving tips. I think I was done with that, can't remember. So the next question, how do you set, I thought it was quite a good question actually. How do you separate work wedding versus personal wedding? And basically, has it taken away any of the excitement from planning my own wedding, is the essence of what the question said. Which I thought was a really good, interesting question. And the answer is no, it's not taken away any excitement. If you know me, you know I love weddings. I always have. Literally, I am one of the girls that have had their wedding planned out since I was 5 years old. So it's kind of not inevitable, but made sense when I did go into the wedding industry. It's just such a happy, uplifting place to work. Like, it's very rare that you get a stressy, angry bride. So yeah, it's just an overall lovely industry to work in. So it does not take away any of the excitement from planning my own. And I don't really think I separate them that much. Like, when I'm planning someone's stationery, I will always be thinking of my own, thinking, would I like that? Do I want that? How would I incorporate this style into my own wedding? So I'd never really separate them, I suppose. Yeah, I never really separate them. And it kind of does intertwine. Like, if I'm looking at someone's, because people send me like mood boards of their flowers or their bridesmaids dresses, I'm always in the back of my mind thinking, do I like that? Taking inspo from that, or, you know, saving pictures. It's all intertwined, and it's all part of the fun. And as I say, I'm very much into weddings. I absolutely love them. So it would take a lot for me to not be excited about planning my own. So being in the industry has not affected me planning my own wedding at all. It's just made it a lot easier and made it a lot more streamlined, and made me understand a lot of more things than I probably would have if I wasn't in the industry. So yeah, it's only benefited me. How did you get into working in the wedding industry? So, I'm not sure if I spoke about this on my very, very first vlog. When I quit my job and started vlogging, that's pretty much when I took RPC full time. But basically, background story is I studied graphic design, went into advertising, worked in an advertising agency for about 4 or 5 years as a graphic designer, and one day my boss, his friend was getting married, and he had said, oh, will you do my wedding stationery? And he literally just palmed off this project to me, because he thought it wasn't a profitable project, it was literally a favour for a friend. So he was like, you do that. And I was like, okay. And then I done it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I thought, you know what, this is quite fun. So then I started doing things basically for no profit, just for fun. I started up an Instagram. This is when I moved away from my first job. Then I moved back to my first job, and took RPC with me. And then COVID happened, and I got put on furlough, and I thought, I'm going to have to make up the difference in wages. So I thought, I will just do this and see how it goes. And surprisingly, it went really well, considering it was COVID. Now that I think about it, I don't even know how I done so well, considering all weddings were postponed. But yeah, it just started going really well, and I started basically working 2 full-time jobs, and I just had to make the decision, I'm going to have to either cut back doing RPC or quit my full-time job. And I just quit my full-time job and just took RPC full-time, and yeah, the best thing ever. And this is the last question. When do you plan on where do you plan on honeymooning? So we talk about this a lot. There's a lot of options, obviously. So by the time we get married, we'll be in the depth of the F1 racing season. So I'm thinking that we might end up going somewhere, doing an F1, a cool F1, maybe Singapore, Abu Dhabi, and then going somewhere chill like Maldives, Seychelles, that type of thing. So more than likely we'll probably be doing half activity, half very, very chill. So yeah, that's our thoughts so far on honeymooning. So with that being said, that is the end of today's Q&A. I hope you enjoyed, I hope it was insightful, I hope you got some tips and hints on how to start planning your wedding and saving on your wedding. Yeah, I will leave a link to my wedding stationery page if anyone is getting married and wants a little snoop, or a chat on more in-depth stuff about wedding stationery. Just drop me a message. But I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe. There will be lots of home updates happening. Today and tomorrow is the last 2 days of the garden renovation, which literally makes me want to jump around this house with excitement. And I think Cole as well, because he has been Mr. Grumpy, having all these stinky workmen in the house constantly. So yeah, hit subscribe if you want to see the finished garden renovation in next week's vlog. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.